The other thing that happened yesterday that is so important is Israel. Israel is going to respond, I believe. We have Lieutenant Colonel retired Jonathan Conricus. He's been on with us before. He is the former Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson and now senior fellow of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And we wanted to get you on, Jonathan. First of all, assuming you're in Israel, you're safe, and that's good. Tell us what happened yesterday and what it means going forward.
Yes. Hi, Glenn. Thank you for having me again. A pleasure. What happened yesterday was the biggest missile attack in Israeli history. About 200 ballistic missiles were fired from about 800, 900 miles away in Iran at Israel. The Iranians claimed that they were aiming for military targets, but most of the impacts were actually in civilian neighborhoods. And luckily, and quite ironically, some may say, the only casualty in life was a Palestinian in Jericho. No Israeli citizens were killed. And while there were some impacts at an Israeli Air Force base, nothing of substance and no real damage, neither to infrastructure or to military capacities.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I heard that several F-35s were taken out. That's not true?
That is absolutely categorically not true.
Wow.
There wasn't a single plane hit, not a single hangar or bunker, and no single runway. There were some logistics buildings in one of the Air Force bases. I'm not going to say the name, but one of the Air Force bases was hit. It's already been fixed and patched up. No damage to the Israeli Air Force's capability to continue to operate. And as our enemies know, the Israeli Air Force continues to operate in Beirut, in other parts of the Middle East, in southern Lebanon, over Gaza. The Iranian propaganda of having 90% of their targets were hit, absolutely false. And luckily, air defenses again proved the enduring return on investment here. Many years of investing, U.S. and Israel doing that together. And for the second time in the moment of truth, air defenses were almost airtight and saved lots and lots of lives in Israel.
I have to tell you, I mean, I don't know if you're a religious man or not, but I am, and 200 missiles being launched, ballistic missiles, coming in and going into Israel, and for no one to be killed, and your Air Force and your military bases not to be destroyed, is an extraordinary miracle, I think.
I would agree. And you don't have to be, fearing in every day to recognize that something special happened again yesterday. This is the second time that the Iranians unleash massive firepower. And just for the viewers to be able to understand what we're talking about, the missiles that the Iranians fired are as big as school buses. And they fired 200 of them, each one of them with hundreds of pounds, with about half a ton of explosives in their warheads. So we're talking about very serious weapons, large explosions. My family, we were in a bomb shelter. My son got caught outside. He was on the bus and then ran to a shelter. And it was really a scene out of a movie with explosions and interceptions and hitting in Tel Aviv. And as you said, the fact that no substantial damage and no loss of life, many would say, and probably I would agree, that this was a miracle. Air defenses, IDF, and a miracle.
I have to tell you that I watched those missiles come in live, but obviously from the other side of the planet, and I thought, what must that be like? I thought of missile launches here going outbound or coming in. Something very few people in the world have seen what happened yesterday. It must have been terrifying for the average person, seeing everything. The sky just lit up with fire.
Yes, the sky lit up with fire, and each one of those orange dots in the air, you know that they're attached to hundreds of pounds of explosives. They're lethal, and that they're aimed at the Israeli cities. And there's explosions all around, lots of noise. You know, we have, just like in the U.S., you have the Amber Alert system on your phone.
Yeah.
So the Israeli defense establishment did the same thing and issued like a push notification on all of the phones, even those who didn't have an app downloaded. And millions of Israelis simultaneously got very strong alarms on their phones, calling them to immediately go to shelters, and that's what millions of Israelis did. And that's also what thankfully led to the fact that even though some of the missiles exploded in populated areas in Israel, nobody was hurt because Israelis were disciplined and went into bomb shelters, and nobody was caught out in the open.
So is Benjamin Netanyahu, do you think, going to respond to this? Will he strike Iran? And is there any fear that they are going to cut off the oil pathways? Are you there?
So
go ahead.
When we look forward, then I think that yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ken. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, right. So when we look forward here, I think that two things will determine what happens next. One is the Israeli end game. What does Israel seek to achieve? Because there are a lot of things when it comes to the Iranian regime, and I'll clarify. And the second thing that is very important is how well will Israel coordinate with the United States of America, and what will the level of support be that Israel will receive. Now, regarding the first part, Israel can go for regime targets, seats of government, leaders and personnel and infrastructure that is part of the Islamic regime. Israel can go for military and economic targets, specifically the places that whereby the Iranian regime facilitates the export of oil and whereby they make money, which is used, of course, to fund terror activities, all of the terror organizations around Israel. And the third option, which, of course, many are eyeing and thinking about, is Iran's nuclear military facilities, the research facilities, the storage facilities, and many others. These are three distinctly different types of targets, and it really matters what does Israel want to achieve. Does Israel want to bring down the regime? Does it only want to deter the Iranians from attacking Israel again? Will Israel be told not to do anything significant by the Americans? And I'll, of course, remind everybody, last time that Iran attacked on the 13th and 14th of April, Israel wanted to retaliate in a much stronger way, but refrained from doing so under American pressure. And instead, Israel focused on continuing and finishing the job in Gaza against Hamas. I don't think that we're going to see that today, and I think that we're going to see in the coming days a strong Israeli response. It may be aimed at the regime, it may be aimed at their nuclear facilities. What I think is absolutely important, ahead of any Israeli activity, is that Israel and the United States of America are coordinated, and I hope American leaders will see this current situation, this threat to Israel, as an opportunity to really do more in a week than what has been accomplished in 10 years of failed diplomacy when it comes to stopping Iran from going nuclear. I really think there's an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that would be good, as long as, there are calls from both sides yesterday that America needs to send more troops over. I think we already have 40,000 that we've sent over. We don't want to be in another war. This one could go global. I think Israel is showing the world, don't screw with us. You guys are doing a great job, and I support that. I just don't want to see us inflame things by including ourselves in the actual strikes. But supporting you to do that.
I agree with you, and I wouldn't want. Yeah, I wouldn't want a single American serviceman in harm's way, and I don't think that anybody needs to be fighting Israel's wars. And I think that Israel, in its history, has many times done the heavy lifting for the rest of the Western world.
Yeah.
Whether it's been dealing with Iraqi dictators or with Syria or with many others. And Israel is quite accustomed to it. And the only thing that Israel asks is military support, supplies, and of course political and diplomatic support. I don't think that Israel needs or wants any American servicemen to be in harm's way. And I would just say a tremendous gratitude towards American servicemen in CENTCOM deployed in the Red Sea on U.S. Navy ships and in the air. Done tremendous work in intercepting Iranian missiles, very professional and super important. And I hope that they remain safe. And I hope that Israel can have the diplomatic and military freedom to do what it needs to do in order to defend itself.
Well, we here support you on whatever you have to do to defend yourself. I support you, I should say, and I think there are millions of Americans that are listening that feel the same way. Jonathan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. Lieutenant Colonel retired Jonathan Conricus, former Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson. The only thing that you should really be looking for is escalation, but most importantly, as he was talking about, Red Sea. When you get into the straits over there, just off the shores of Iran, if they start going after our Navy ships or they try to close those straits down, that is the world's flow of oil, and we will get involved in that, and that will become very, very, very dangerous because this one will not be a partial war. This one will include, I believe, bombings in our streets. I believe we are close to terrorist activity, foreign terrorist activity in our own streets, orchestrated by Iran and a lot of others who are here and want to destroy us. So we, especially during this election season, we all need to be good Americans together, not Republicans, Democrats, but good Americans, and start paying attention to these issues so we can take care of our own self first so we survive this time period.